Welcome to the Board Wrap-Up Show for October. I'm Sean Anderson, your host for Ponca City Public Schools, and it's our monthly visit with the Superintendent of Ponca City Public Schools, Shelley Arrett, where we go over the items discussed and the things happening in the Board of Education monthly meeting. And Superintendent Shelley Arrett, thank you for being on the show.
Good to see you, Sean. How are you?
Very well, very well. Well, the Board of Education meeting for October started out, as it often does, with the Board of Education Awards, and that is always a very special time.
Well, this is actually the first month that we have done the awards this year. We always do them during the school year, and we have the employees and their families and staff members come in to celebrate them. But with our pandemic, our global pandemic, we're kind of honoring our employees virtually as well. So how that works is Mr. Layton is going out to present at the sites, and we get a photograph, and then we read the nomination to recognize these recipients publicly. So our certified employee of the month is Mary James. Mary is the technology coach at Poe High. And I will tell you, that girl has worked herself crazily trying to support the teachers with distance learning. She's created how-to videos. She's been in the classroom with them. So she has been a true asset for the district, especially during these times when we are doing a lot of virtual learning and distance learning as well. Our support employee of the month is Kyle Albee, and he is our district courier. And with 13 sites and 3 departments, maintenance, transportation, and CMP, you can imagine that we have a lot of mail that goes between the sites, and he has a full day and stays busy with the mail. He's always got a smile on his face and always just very genuine with everyone he meets. So we're glad to have Kyle. Our friend of education is Ponca City Aviation, and East Middle School nominated them. They are always donating gift cards and providing prizes for our district. So it was good to honor them as well.
Fantastic. A lot of folks wondering about the ACT and the testing update. We're talking about spring of 2021, right?
We are talking about spring of 2021. And you know, the state test for juniors, for all juniors, can either be the ACT or the SAT. And this annual report occurs because the board has to approve which test our students take. And we have focused on ACT standards, ACT prep. They correlate well with the Oklahoma academic standards. So we have always opted for the ACT test. And as you know, there was no state testing last year, so our juniors did not get to take those. And I'm hearing that universities are going to use different criteria other than the ACT, since so many students didn't get to take it for next year for our graduating seniors. So they will use either GPA or some other criteria. But we are hoping to take that ACT test in April of 2021.
Tell us about the new and revised Board of Education policies, please.
Well, each year we revise our policies based on recommendations from our policy writers and state statutes, newly approved state laws. And every year on 1 month, we give a summary and explain the policy to the board, and then it's open for a month for our community, for our public to ask questions. And on our website, www.pcps.us, under board policies, we have a summary of the proposed revised policies, and we accept public comments or take questions through this month right before the next board meeting, and the board will consider those policies. Anyone who wants to go out and review can review and give us a call at 767-8000 if they have questions or comments. But I will give you a short summary of the policy updates, very, very short. I'll just talk about some of the policy updates. We had a policy update on holding board meetings via video conference due to the pandemic. Governor Stitt allowed this to occur while we were in a state of emergency. So we don't know how much longer that will occur. And originally back in March, this was approved through November 15th of 2020. I would suspect that that would go on further until Governor Stitt terminates the state of emergency with COVID-19. We also had a policy update on use of facilities, advertising in district media, emergency medical services at district athletic events. We had a new policy, a revision to service animals, smoking, vaping, and the use of tobacco products. There is a new policy on emergency preparedness and management, which actually came about due to COVID-19, because we certainly weren't prepared of that. It just outlines the step that we would take. And this could be for any state of emergency, a fire, tornado, flood, whatever. We have a strongly recommended policy on cybersecurity. We were victims of a ransomware attack right before school started. And I think it is just been really frequent with schools and municipalities and hospitals with the ransomware attacks and different cyber attacks throughout this pandemic. So they've become really prominent. So our policy writers recommended a policy for that. We had some instructional policy updates on the Reading Sufficiency Act and a virtual hybrid and distance learning policy, since now we offer all these learning options. In personnel, we had a new policy on criminal record search, telework during extended closure for intermittent use. And let's talk about that one. When our teachers are quarantined, oftentimes they telework from home. We may have a substitute in the classroom, but they're actually teaching their classes from home, as long as they're not sick. That's, if they're a close contact or something like that. We've even had some of our staff members who have tested positive and have continued to teach their classes, unless of course they're not able to do so. So that's a good policy to have, especially in COVID-19 times. Then we had a policy that correlates with the federal law on the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, and we got that in our policy, or that's a consideration. Support employees rules for conduct had a couple of updates. Alcohol and drug testing for bus drivers had some updates. And we had a couple of policies in the student section on chronic absenteeism, and then a revision on records, policies, and procedures if another school request records for a specific student. So those are out there on our website, and our board will discuss changes and consider approval at our November board meeting.
Very good. This is the October board wrap-up show for Ponca City Public Schools. It is a recap of the monthly Board of Education meeting. Shelley Arrett, Superintendent of Ponca City Public Schools, with us. And of course, you're probably on the 85th COVID update, and because those updates are constantly forming and being released through different media outlets. And it was time during the board meeting for the board to be given the latest COVID update. And how did that go?
Well, actually, it was a good report. It was the first positive report that I've given since school started. Unfortunately, COVID updates are a part of the monthly board meetings now, but our COVID-19 alert system risk level actually decreased last week for the first time since August 8th. We had maintained in the yellow or the low risk area for several weeks, and then we went up into the orange 1, moderate risk, and even up into the orange 2. Last week, we went back down to the orange 1 risk, and I can tell you, Sean, the cases that we see in school directly correlate to that risk, and that happens to correlate with the number of new cases on a rolling day, seven-day average in K County. So it's specific for each county. Now, there are several COVID alert systems. There is the Oklahoma State Department of Health COVID alert system, and then there are some, there happens to be the Oklahoma State Department of Education alert system, which has certain scores correlated to it, and it goes all the way up into the red level. Just the COVID alert system with the Oklahoma State Department of Health just has the 3 levels, the green, the yellow, and the orange. So the State Department of Education made recommendations based on their criteria for the COVID alert system, and our board adopted some of those recommendations. But something that our board did is they are making decisions when deemed appropriate, whether we go to in-person instruction, alternate schedule, or distance learning. And obviously, if we quarantine a class of students, that they will go pivot directly to distance learning. But I will tell you, it is the goal of the administration of this district and the Board of Education to have that face-to-face instruction, because I'm telling you, after a 38-year educator, that is the most ideal instruction. So we are mitigating very rigidly to keep our kids in school, which you know. Unfortunately, we still have quarantines and isolations, but that's the risk we took. We would rather our kids learn from home for 2 weeks than for an entire semester. So, but we had some good news, and we've held our own pretty much this week as well. So far, I think we've had 37 days of school, or we've completed 37 days of school. We've had 19 days of no positives and 18 days that we've had positives. So we are winning by 1 day.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Absolutely. It's always good to see those numbers improving and moving in a good direction.
For sure. It's always
there was a school board. Absolutely. School board election resolution. What was that all about during the Board of Education meeting?
We have a board election every year, and required by law, we have to provide information to the K County Election Board about this resolution that has been board approved by November 20th of each year. So we had to take care of that at the November board meeting, and this just talks about the dates that the election will occur. It depends on the number of candidates that may file. Ward 1 is up this year for election. Actually, it's in 2020, and it's currently held by Robin Riley, and the term of office is from 2021 to 2026. It is a 5-year commitment, and I will tell you, there is absolutely no pay for board members, but they spend a lot of time focusing on what we're doing in the district and supporting our students and our community. So I will have to give it up for our board members. A shout out to them. They do a great job.
They have to review
200 to 300 pages
it's
a
lot.
month. It is. It's a lot of work, and it takes a lot of time, but I appreciate those who are dedicated to serving our students.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of upcoming events. Let's talk about upcoming events for Ponca City Public Schools.
Right. In the fall, we have some awesome events to recognize, and our board takes action on recognizing these events. This week, actually, the week of November 16th through the 20th is American Education Week, and that was actually established in 1921, and it's a way to observe and honor the accomplishments of public schools and make make the community aware of needs of public schools and how much of an impact free and appropriate education has on our students in our community. So we at this time would like to recognize American Education Week and thank all of our employees who make school a success. That includes our teachers, our support staff, and our volunteers, and just our community. Another event that the board took action to recognize that coincides with American Education Week is National Education Support Personnel Week. And Sean, as you know, in our schools, we have certified teachers. That means that they have a certificate with the Oklahoma State Department of Education, but we have a lot of support personnel. And we could not make it without them. They help us keep the plate spinning. It's anywhere from TAs to special education paras, transportation, our child nutrition program, our maintenance program. In fact, our district has 352 support employees. So we're about balanced in our numbers of certified and support employees. So they are an integral part of any school district. And we especially love our support employees in Ponca City. Also, the board took action to commemorate National Native American Heritage Month. And this is a time to recognize the intertribal cultures and to educate our public on the art and the history and the traditions of American Indians, Alaskan Natives, and Native Hawaiians. And of course, here in Ponca City, we have a rich culture of Native American heritage. So it's always a pleasure to make awareness to that and to teach our kids about the variety of cultures. We're going to be celebrating all of November for that. And you'll probably see artwork, Native American artwork, displayed throughout the district. We will also celebrate Freedom Week. And that is celebrated the week of November 8th through the 14th, and it coincides with Veterans Day, and it gives us the opportunity to better educate our students on the sacrifices of those people who made them to make sure that we have the freedoms in our country that we have today, and and the values that are placed on how the United States was founded. So 4 big events.
Yeah, a lot of big events coming up. 2 other things that were discussed at the Board of Education meeting for October: the backstop netting at the baseball field and the Highland Dairy agreement. Let's start with the backstop netting for the baseball field.
Well, if you haven't been by our baseball field, it is looking really nice. Drive by over on 5th. We've done some upgrades, some needed upgrades. With our bond election in 2015, we turfed the infield and it looks really, really nice. And this summer, or actually when we were on closure, we did some work to the field, to the back field, evened it up, painted the back fence. It looks amazing. It's breathtaking when you're standing behind the home plate. However, the backstop netting was in dire need of replacement, and that can be a real danger if the backstop netting allows balls to go through it. So it's a purchase that we needed to make, and that is going to be installed shortly. So we're looking forward to baseball season this year. We did not get to have one last year because we were in mandatory closure. And then our Highland Dairy agreement, that is for our milk and our juice and Red Diamond tea that we serve to nearly 5,000 students. And while we're talking about that, or that agreement, I've mentioned before that the federal government has allowed for free lunches through December 31st for all of our students. So every student in Ponca City eats free, not just those who have applied for free and reduced lunches, but all students. We just got word last week that that's going to carry on throughout the school year through the end of the term. So we are super excited about this. And this is government relief to help those families who might be struggling during the pandemic. So we're super excited to provide a nutritious meal to all of our students for free.
That is wonderful. That is absolutely fantastic. Great news. A lot of positives from the October Board of Education meeting, and Superintendent Shelley Arrett joins us every month, and we recap the entire Board of Education meeting. And those meetings sometimes get really long, and somehow we condense it into a 15 or 20-minute segment here. I'm not sure how you do that, Shelley, but you can do a lot of things, and you and the entire staff, Ponca City Public Schools, and the support staff, the educators, the teachers, everybody working a lot of extra hours and doing a lot of extra things. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, and you know what? I have to commend our families too. It's hard on a working family when a student gets quarantined. They have to, make sure someone's there with them if they're a primary student. And I know that a lot of families are working all day and then coming home and helping their kids with their schoolwork too. So it's a sacrifice on everyone, but I tell you what, it has been a team effort. So I commend not only our staff, our students, our families, and our entire community.
Well, that is going to do it for this edition of the Board Wrap Up Show. And our thanks to Superintendent Shelley Arrett for being with us on this edition. And thank you for watching.